do this with my family. Here's what I do as far as my everyday activities. Here's what I do as far as leads. Here's what I do as far as social networking. Here's what I do as far as the internet. Here's what I do as far as reverse solicitation. Here's what I do when I go shopping. Here's what I do when I go to trade shows or fairs or something like that. I mean, they did it different ways, but they all had strategies there. And I found that most of them used something between 2, 3, and 4 strategies, because you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. You don't want to just do leads. You don't want to just contact your family and friends. You don't want to just do this or just do that. It's good to have to spread that out just a little bit so that you have different ways of different methods of prospecting, because there's so many different ways this business works. Another thing they didn't do in this area, as far as knowing how to build, they didn't get too diversified. Some people get so diversified, they don't know what they're doing each day, because they're just all over the place. They're just all over the place. One of the things the people did is they were really good about, as far as their prospects and so forth, and as far as their knowing what to do, they were very good at planning the night before. In fact, we talked in a circle. Ryan Anderson and Scott Smith and some of the people can tell you this. We'd get together kind of each evening, because we did this for about 3 days, and we'd talk in circles around this fireside, and we'd talk about the day and what we did and so forth. But we'd also get into building, and the people almost universally said they planned the day the night before, which I thought was really, really interesting. They planned the day night before, when they were, even if they were in the business part-time, they're in their head, they treated it like a full-time business. And that's a big characteristic, that they treat their part-time business, Zango, if they were in a part-time, and most of them were. And most people are until they become a large 20K or a premier or a higher or something, But it was so important to them, they treated their part-time business, Zango, like a full-time business, because that's the mindset they kind of needed to have. But they knew what they were going to do each day regarding building. They knew where they were going to go, who they were going to call. They had already planned that out the evening before. And that's one of the big things that is important to me. If I don't do that, I have a really crummy prospecting day. I just can't even tell you how crummy it is. If I don't do that, I just have a really, really crummy prospecting day. And so I make sure that I plan the night before, because that way, if I have this at 1 and this at 3 and this at 5 or something like that, then I know that I can fit in some calls here and fit in some calls there and fit in some calls there. Or if I worked full time, if I had a 9 to 5 job and I worked full time, I'd know that maybe from 8 to 8:45, I could make some East Coast calls, because people would already be up and around or whatever. Maybe at noontime, I could make a call or two or whatever, or contact some people as I went out for lunch. Or when I got off work, I could spend 1 or 2 hours on the way home, visiting some friends or family, or visiting the mall, or going to a trade show on the weekend or something like that. In other words, I'd have all that stuff planned out the night before, and that's what I found. Another thing that I found they completely had in common. Another thing is the next thing is and this is a huge one right here. This is one of the hugest. Almost to the person. In fact, I think I could say that, to the person. As I talk to people at meetings, at spring ahead events, as I talk to these people up at when we were snowballing, virtually to the person, the 200s, the 500, the fast-growing 20Ks and 5Ks, virtually to the person, they actually had moved into tools and systems and strategies, and they depended on these things. They knew exactly what to do when they were making contacts. They knew exactly what they were going to give people as far as a DVD or something, or which video they were going to send out. They had a strategy for contacting, and it wasn't. And it's really funny. It wasn't a big variety. In other words, They didn't kind of look at someone, well, I think I'll talk to this person about Elevate. Oh, I think I'll talk to this person about toxicity. Oh, I think I'll talk to this person, about, whatever. They kind of didn't do that. They concentrated, they really concentrated on the Elevate, or they really concentrated on the, toxic story, or they really concentrated on the entire story through their new frontier or something. They really had that strategy down as far as their tools went. And oftentimes those tools were combined with team tools. In other words, they had team tools. They worked with this distributor in their upline, and their upline had this website or that website, and so they worked within a web system or within a certain building system of their upline. And there are many of them out there, and most of them I really appreciate, and they're really, really good. And I'd encourage people to really understand how important this is, because one thing you absolutely don't want to do is just go out there, especially in this day and age of communication, and try to do it verbally just on your own. It's not gonna work. You really need to get into tools. And I'm preaching to the choir a little bit here on Life as It Could Be, is because most all of you are already using certain tools, and most of you probably are already part of different kind of teams. Whether it be someone like a Zenas, or someone like a Hall, or someone like a Huss, or just all these different kind of teams out there. There's all these team sites and team things, Bash and Sharif's, and just all these wonderful, wonderful things out there, and you can use. And they have a strategy for contacting people, do this, and then do this, and then show this video, or that video, or this thing, or that thing, or this, this CD or DVD, whatever the case, and get involved. If you're not doing that, then find out, start asking some questions, find out what's out there, and depend on that yourself, because in this day and age, I'm telling you, we really need to understand the importance of not trying to wing this on our own. People don't expect that. They expect you to take advantage of the technology that's out there. It's this business right now is high tech, but it's also high touch, and we should combine both of those things: technology with touching, and so forth. That there's specific ways. Most of these teams, I found, they have specific ways to sponsor. In other words, they want their people to do it a certain way. They want them to either use the phone, or use the internet, or use forums or something like that, or use this website or that website or whatever. Most of them even have a standard first order. They try to get people on this first order or that first order, because many of these teams have a first order that they recommend, and that way everybody's kind of on the same page, and they're not out there. They don't have a whole bunch of people all over the place out there winging it and saying, I wonder what I should do. I wonder what the best first order is. In other words, they already know what the best first order, because it's recommended by the team. They have an ADP that's standard that the team usually recommends, and so forth. And I just really recommend again that people get involved in that. They have specific conference calls. There's conference calls going on all the time, webinars like this one. We're doing one right now, and they have specific conference calls, webinars that they like to listen into. And most of them recommend only one or two. Most of them recommend, and I'll tell you, I have a rule of thumb, and here's my rule of thumb, and I don't mind saying it. If you're listening to more than two conference calls or webinars a week, more than two, you're saddling up. That's too many. You're taking out valuable prospecting time that you could be out making phone calls to other people, and that's saddling up. If two is enough, whether they be conference calls or webinars or whatever, two is enough. So if you like to listen to this one and your team has one, I really recommend you listen to that team one too, and then don't listen to a bunch of others. You don't need to. That's saddling up, okay? Because the most important thing, even more so than these webinars, is calling people, sponsoring. Team goals. Part of this, depending on tools and systems and strategy, is team goals. Most of these people have team goals and individual goals, and that also gets into team accountability and individual accountability. When I sponsor someone, I put them on a path right away. And I find that this is pretty common. And the path right away is this. I look at the person, I start talking to them about commitment, and then after commitment, I get into accountability. And I tell them, here's what I expect of you. And they say, what's that? And I said, first of all, I'm going to say what you can expect of me, because this is going to be a two-way street. And I start talking to them about what I'll do as far as being available for them, help that I'll give them, in personal help, 3 ways, conference methods, seminars, just all the different things I can do as a person to help them. And then I say, but there's certain things I expect of you too. And one of those things, and this is after I've interviewed them a little bit and see how much time they have, I'll say, I expect 2-3 ways a week from you. 2. If I don't get 2 out of you, I know you're not serious about the business. So I expect 2-3 ways a week. Can you do that? Now, if they're crazy, crazy busy, maybe I'll say 1. If they're doing the business full time, maybe I'll say 3. So it might vary. And then I put down, I make a little memo on that so that I remember that. And then if Wednesday or Thursday comes and I've done no 3 ways, I can get a hold of them. And I said, you committed to 2-3 ways with me this week. This is Wednesday evening. We haven't even done 1. I said, so I'm expecting 2 in the next 2 days. Will you fulfill that commitment and not let me and yourself down? And so that way, once they've made those kind of commitments, and you can hold them to that accountability and such. So I do that. I get them to commit to MDCs. How many MDCs, minimum daily contacts, new contacts, are you going to do each day? And it's going to vary depending if they're, part-time or full-time or whatever. And so that's going to vary a little bit. But I'm going to get them to go into a MDC, to go into a certain number of 3 ways with me. And also I'm going to tell them, I want you to commit to the webinar. I want you to commit to this and commit to that. And so that's what I find the leaders do. And it's universal. I'll tell you something. There's some awesome things going on out there. The Sharon and Dan calls that are going on every morning, and Charlie Eminecker calls that are going on, and these webinars and so forth. I mean, some of these leaders, they're awesome. They just tell people, you're going to be on that webinar. You're going to be on that call. I'm going to be listening for your name, or I'm going to talk to you afterwards about how it went, just to talk to you about it, because basically what they're trying to do is kind of find out if the people were on it. I want to talk to you about it afterwards and so forth, and kind of talk about the things that were said and how we might be able to implement some of those ideas in our business and such. The leaders are just really good at that, and this is something that's completely universal. Virtually every 500, 200, 100 out there, they work with their own systems or within other systems, and they're just and that those strategies and tools are crazy important. And if you're not doing that with your people on a team basis or on a personal basis, I'd really encourage you to get doing that. The next thing is the follow up and follow through. Let me check my time just a minute.
You're right. It's 8:30.
I'm in good shape. I just want to make sure.
Okay.
The next thing is the leaders, people that sponsor a lot, people that do these things right. They're very good at follow up and follow through. I'll make an admission here. We're now talking about my very, very weakest thing. People could make fortunes on just what I let fall through the cracks. And I say that in kind of an embarrassing way, but I like to admit my faults too. And this is an area that I have a hard time with. Man alive, I get people all interested, and then I don't even call them back. And lose names and things like that. Now, I'm pretty good at doing what I do, but at the same time, this is a problem I have, and it's critical we do it in a 24 to 48 hour time, if not before. Oftentimes, do it in a 2-hour period of time or 3. I'll tell you, one of the best things you can do is somebody watches a video, call it back in 1 hour, or call it back in 5 minutes. Say, I hadn't noticed you just watched that thing. What'd you think? Call it back when they're hot and they just finished listening to it. That is an awesome way to do things. But at least within no less than 24 to 48 hours, and this is something I work on continuously and try to improve in, and it holds me back from growing even faster than I do. But this follow-up and follow-through is absolutely critical. Help your people follow